In 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that separate schools for black and white students were unconstitutional.
And we all know the story of the Little Rock Nine. Those brave students integrated Central High School. It was not an easy time, but it eventually led to the end of segregated classrooms.
But as Fox 16's Drew Petrimoulx reports, that change is reversing in many parts of the country, including here in Little Rock.
Deja Taylor is a straight-A student. She's president of her class and on her way to becoming valedictorian. The drive to succeed comes from her grandfather.
When he died, it took a toll on me. I just want to do something good.
But Taylor is ahead of many of her classmates. She attends J.A. Fair, one of 6 schools in the Little Rock district to be declared distressed by the state. Only 40% of students at her school pass end-of-the-year literary exams. At J.A. Fair, 95% of the students are black and 83% are on free or reduced lunch.
Every school that I have attended has been majority black.
In fact, all of the distressed schools in Little Rock are almost entirely black and economically disadvantaged. These schools exist in a city where about half the population is white, and studies have shown the power of integrated schools. A 2011 study published in the National Bureau of Economic Research found black students who went to integrated schools were more likely to attend college and earn a degree. They eventually made more money and were less likely to spend time in jail. Another from 2005 by Columbia University showed the socioeconomic status of classmates is more important than the student's own status when determining educational success.
It's very difficult if you have a school where a significant number of the students are low performing.
Dennis Glasgow has been with the school district for more than 40 years. He says busing programs did increase diversity in Little Rock public schools, but there was a backlash.
We've lost a lot of students who are the easier to educate, the higher performing students, to private schools and charter schools.
Over the last 20 years, the number of white students in the district has been cut nearly in half, while the number of black students has stayed relatively even. And now Glasgow says there's not enough diversity to achieve results the studies show are possible.
And the research shows if we can get about 25% of the kids with the upper reading levels, they begin to pull up the kids who are below them. 60% or more of our African-American population are our
Jim
grade.
Ross is a former Little Rock School Board member who's been involved with education policy in the city for 15 years. He's been pushing for educational reforms aimed at reaching minority students and a redrawing of school zones to achieve greater racial diversity. But he says white parents have a social responsibility to send their kids to diverse schools.
Quit being afraid and go ahead and put that behind us.
The counterpoint to that is true open enrollment.
Gary Newton is with the pro-charter school group Arkansas Learns. He says the answer to a lack of diversity is more choice.
If you have centers of excellence, no matter where they are, whether it's a charter or traditional school, then people want to get to that.
For now, the Little Rock School District appears to be at a crossroads. The state took over earlier this year, a move that prompted 2 lawsuits and the renewing of a legal fight that's been ongoing for 60 years.
Everybody's on the road sheet.
I think if schools reflected how the world really is, that would be better, because the world is not majority black.
Learn how to reduce test anxiety.
Deja Taylor recently got a wake-up call when she was chosen to participate in Governor's School, a summer study program with the top students across the state.
And the stuff that we go over in my school, apparently it's not what they go over in their school, and it just made me feel behind.
Taylor says that's driving her to work twice as hard. She's committed to becoming a chemical engineer. But sadly, that feeling of being behind is something many of her classmates do not overcome. In Little Rock, Drew Petrimoulx, Fox 16 News.
Well, in his research, Drew discovered studies show minority gains were achieved by attending integrated schools. They did not find any damage to the educational success of their white counterparts.